Their SOS reached the galaxy, and Earth's Deathworlders arrived. The emergency lights flashed red across the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Velthara stood at the center platform, her 6 legs trembling. She was small even for her species. Her translucent wings hung limp against her back as she addressed the council members. "Please," she said, her voice breaking through the translation device. "My people are dying. The Ravagers have destroyed 3 of our settlements already. We need help." Around her, representatives from dozens of species sat in their designated seats. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away. None offered what she desperately needed. Council Director Pym, a large gray creature with 4 eyes, spoke in a formal tone. "Ambassador Velthara, we understand your situation is difficult. However, the Ravagers are a military force. Our protocols do not permit intervention in active conflicts." "Protocols?" Velthara's voice rose. "My people are not soldiers. We are farmers, teachers, and families. The Ravagers are slaughtering civilians. How can you speak of protocols?" Another council member spoke up. "A floating being surrounded by a blue energy field. The Ravagers evolved on a harsh world. Their military is powerful. Any species that challenges them risks total destruction. We cannot ask our people to die for yours." Velthara felt her hope crumbling. She had traveled for weeks to reach this station. She had believed the Galactic Council stood for justice and protection. Now she realized the truth. They were politicians, not saviors. "Then what am I supposed to do?" she asked quietly. Director Pym shifted uncomfortably. "Return to your people. Evacuate who you can. We will offer refugee status to survivors." "Refugee status." Velthara repeated the words like they tasted bitter. "You will let my entire civilization die and then offer the survivors charity." No one responded. Velthara turned and walked toward the exit. Her legs felt heavy. Behind her, the council members began discussing other matters, her crisis already forgotten. She stopped at the doorway and looked back. "I came here because I believed in the council. I believed powerful species had a duty to protect weaker ones. I was wrong." She left the chamber and made her way to the station's communication hub. If the council would not help, she would find someone who would. The technician on duty, a young reptilian with orange scales, looked up as she entered. "Ambassador, can I help you?" "I need to send a distress signal," Velthara said. "Unrestricted broadcast. All frequencies." The technician's eyes widened. "That's against regulations. Unrestricted broadcasts reach unexplored sectors. Unknown species. Some regions are marked dangerous." "My people are already facing danger," Velthara replied. "What more do I have to lose?" The technician hesitated, then nodded. "I will do it. But I cannot promise anyone will answer." "Someone will," Velthara said, though she did not know if she believed it. The signal went out into the darkness of space, traveling faster than light through relay stations and across empty voids. It carried a simple message: a colony under attack, coordinates included, desperate plea for help. Most species ignored it. Some received it but dismissed it as another hopeless cause. The signal continued outward, reaching the edge of known space and beyond. On Earth, in a facility hidden beneath the mountains near Seoul, Captain Dae-hyun sat at his station monitoring deep space frequencies. The first contact communications center was only 3 years old. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel recently, and had been listening to the galaxy ever since. Most of what they heard made no sense. Alien languages, strange signals, patterns they could not decode. But Dae-hyun's team worked constantly, trying to understand their new neighbors in the universe. When Velthara's message came through, the computer flagged it immediately. The translation program, still crude, worked on the signal. Words appeared on Dae-hyun's screen. "Under attack. Civilians dying. Please help. Coordinates attached." Dae-hyun sat up straight. He had been waiting 3 years for a message like this. He immediately forwarded it to his superior and began analyzing the coordinates. 20 minutes later, Colonel Hyun-woo entered the communication center. He was older than Dae-hyun, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in wars before humanity reached the stars. "Tell me this is real," Hyun-woo said. "It's real, sir. The signal is genuine. Someone out there is asking for help." Hyun-woo studied the translated message on the screen. "We have no authority in galactic affairs. We are not part of their council. We do not know their laws or their conflicts." "They are dying, sir," Dae-hyun said quietly. Hyun-woo was silent for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. Get me the president. The conversation that followed changed everything. Within hours, the United Earth government held an emergency session. They debated for 2 hours. Some argued that humanity should not interfere in alien affairs. Others said that if Earth wanted respect from the galaxy, they needed to show they stood for something. In the end, the vote was close, but it passed. Earth would respond to the distress call. Dae-hyun stood in the briefing room the next morning, addressing a group of officers and scientists. Dr. Ji-won, the lead xenobiologist, sat in the front row taking notes. She was brilliant and cautious, always asking questions others did not think to ask. We know very little about the situation, Dae-hyun explained. We have coordinates for a colony world called New Haven. We have limited information about the attackers called Ravagers. We do not know what we will find when we arrive. One officer raised his hand. What about the Galactic Council? Surely they are handling this. According to our analysis of the signal, the ambassador who sent it was asking for help because the council refused to act. The room fell silent. Dr. Ji-won spoke up. Captain, have you considered that we might be walking into something beyond our capabilities? We have only been in space for a few years. These are civilizations thousands of years old. I have considered it, Dae-hyun replied, but someone sent a distress call and we received it. What kind of species would we be if we ignored it? Dr. Ji-won nodded slowly. She understood. Over the next 2 days, volunteers flooded the recruitment centers. Humans had always been drawn to the idea of helping others, even strangers, even aliens. The United Earth Response Fleet assembled quickly. 15 ships, not a large force by galactic standards, but it was what Earth could spare. Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Soul's Pride, watching Earth shrink in the view screen as they departed. Beside him, Hyunwoo stood with his arms crossed. I hope we are making the right choice, Hyunwoo said. So do I, Dae-hyun replied. The ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the darkness between stars. The journey would take 5 days. 5 days to reach a world they had never seen, to help people they had never met, to face an enemy they did not understand. Behind them, Earth continued its rotation, unaware that its children were about to make their first real mark on the galaxy. In the ruins of New Haven, Velthara huddled with other survivors in an underground shelter. The Ravagers had destroyed most of the surface structures. Food was running low. Hope was dying. She did not know that her message had been received. She did not know that help was coming. She only knew that she had tried everything, and it had not been enough. Above the shelter, Ravager ships circled like predators, waiting for the survivors to emerge. And somewhere between the stars, 15 human ships raced toward them at impossible speeds. Their SOS reached the galaxy, and Earth's Deathworlders arrived. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Haven system. Captain Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of Soul's Pride, staring at the tactical display. Even from this distance, they could see the devastation. Report, he ordered. The tactical officer, a young woman named Lieutenant Minna, worked her console quickly. Sir, I'm reading multiple hostile vessels in orbit around the 4th planet. That matches the coordinates from the distress signal. I'm also detecting weapons fire on the surface. How many hostile ships? 23 confirmed. Possibly more on the far side of the planet. Commander Tae Yang, who led the fighter squadron, stepped forward. That's more than we expected. Our intelligence suggested a raiding party, not an invasion force. Dae-hyun nodded slowly. The situation was worse than they had hoped, but they had come too far to turn back now. Minna, can you establish communication with the planet's surface? Working on it, sir. These frequencies are strange. The translation program is struggling. Dr. Ji-won entered the bridge carrying a tablet. Captain, I've been reviewing the data we collected from the distress signal. The species that sent it, the Quilix, they evolved on a low-gravity world. Their atmosphere is thinner than ours. They are physically fragile. Fragile how? Tae Yang asked. Their bones are hollow like birds. Their muscle density is a fraction of ours. A human child could probably overpower an adult Quilix without trying. Tae Yang frowned. Then how do they expect to fight off an invasion? They don't, Ji-won replied quietly. That's why they called for help. Minna suddenly stood up from her station. Sir, I've made contact. Audio only. Translating now. A voice came through the speakers, high-pitched and trembling. The translation program converted it to Korean in real time. though some words remained garbled. This is New Haven. Who is this? Please identify. Daehyun stepped forward. This is Captain Daehyun of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride. We received your distress signal. We are here to help. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, filled with confusion. Earth? We do not have records of Earth. What sector are you from? We are from the Sol system. We are a new spacefaring species. We received your call for help. Another pause, longer this time. When the voice spoke again, it sounded different, stronger. You came. You actually came. I am Ambassador Velthara. I sent that signal. I did not think anyone would answer. We answered, Daehyun said simply. Tell us what you need. Over the next hour, Velthara explained the situation. The Ravagers had arrived 2 weeks ago. They had demanded the Quilix surrender their world and leave. When the Quilix refused, the Ravagers began systematic destruction. They were not trying to conquer. They were trying to exterminate. How many survivors? Daehyun asked. Maybe 5,000. We had 20,000 before the attack. Most are in underground shelters now. The Ravagers are searching for us. It is only a matter of time. Daehyun looked at his officers. Taehyung's jaw was tight. Minna's hands were clenched. Even Colonel Hyun-woo, watching from the side of the bridge, looked grim. We will get your people out, Daehyun promised. Stand by. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Tactical assessment. Can we win this fight? Taeyang pulled up the data on the main screen. Their ships are larger than ours. Better shielding. More weapons, but their formations are sloppy. They are not expecting resistance. What about ground forces? Hyun-woo asked. Unknown, sir, Minna replied. We have no data on Ravager soldiers. Dr. Ji-won cleared her throat. Captain, before you engage, there's something you should know. I've been analyzing the galactic database we downloaded from that relay station. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Everyone turned to look at her. What does that mean? Daehyun asked. Ji-won pulled up information on her tablet. Most spacefaring species evolved on what we would consider gentle worlds. Lower gravity, stable climates, fewer predators. Earth is different. Our gravity is higher. Our weather is violent. Our ecosystem is full of things trying to kill each other. Humans evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species within hours. So we're stronger? Taeyang asked, much stronger. Our bones are denser. Our muscles are more powerful. Our healing factor is faster. We can function in environments that would be considered extreme torture to most aliens. Minna spoke up quietly. Does this mean the Ravagers will be weaker than us? Possibly, Ji-won said. Though they evolved on a harsh world too, according to records. Just not as harsh as Earth. Daehyun absorbed this information. It changed things. Maybe humanity was not as outmatched as they had feared. Send a message to all ships, he ordered. We are going in. Fighter squadrons will establish air superiority. Marines will deploy to the surface and evacuate civilians. Capital ships will engage enemy vessels in orbit. The crew moved quickly, relaying orders. Within minutes, the fleet began advancing toward New Haven. On the planet's surface, Velthara received a message through her communicator. Ambassador, the Earth ships are approaching. They say they will evacuate us. Can you mark your shelter locations? Velthara felt something she had not felt in weeks. Hope. She began transmitting coordinates. In orbit, Warlord Krath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human vessels approach. He was massive, even for a Ravager. His thick armor covered muscles built for crushing and tearing. His species had conquered 17 worlds through pure brutality. What are these ships? He growled at his tactical officer. Unknown, Warlord. They are not in our database. Small fleet, primitive design. Krath laughed, a harsh sound. Someone actually answered the insect's distress call? Fools. Destroy them. The Ravager fleet turned to face the approaching humans. Weapons powered up, shields activated. On Soul's Pride, alarms blared. They're targeting us, Minna called out. All enemy ships are locking weapons. Daehyun sat in his command chair, watching the tactical display. This was it. Humanity's first battle in space. First contact with an alien military force, all ships, he said calmly. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. Fighter squadrons launch. The battle began. Taeyang led his squadron out of the carrier bay. 12 fighters against impossible odds. His display lit up with targeting information. 23 enemy ships. His squadron had trained for this, but training and reality were different things. Stay tight, he ordered his pilots. Focus on their weapon arrays. We don't need to destroy them, just disable them. The fighters streaked toward the Ravager fleet at speeds that would have shattered most alien pilots. Human reflexes trained in high-gravity simulators kept them on course through the chaos of battle. The Ravagers fired. Energy beams cut through space. But the human fighters moved in patterns the enemy did not expect. Rapid acceleration, sudden stops, impossible turns, they're too fast. A Ravager gunner shouted. I cannot track them. Taeyang's fighter screamed past a Ravager cruiser, firing precisely at its weapon ports. Explosions blossomed along the enemy hull. On the surface, the first human dropship descended through the atmosphere. Sergeant Jae Hwan sat with his Marines checking their equipment one final time. He was a veteran of Earth's last war, a conflict that had ended just before first contact. Listen up, he said to his squad. We're going into an unknown situation. Unknown enemy. Unknown terrain. Stay alert. Stay together. Our mission is to protect civilians and get them to the evacuation points. The dropship shook as it hit turbulence. Through the windows, they could see smoke rising from destroyed cities. 30 seconds to landing, the pilot announced. Jae-hwan stood up, gripping the safety rail. His squad followed his lead. Ready. The dropship touched down in a clearing near one of the marked shelter locations. The rear ramp dropped and the Marines rushed out, weapons ready. The planet's atmosphere was thin. Gravity was lighter than Earth's. To Jae-hwan, it felt like running in slow motion. Secure the perimeter, he ordered. His squad spread out, taking defensive positions. In the distance, they could hear weapons fire. The Ravagers knew they were here. Jae-hwan activated his communicator. Ambassador Velthara, this is Sergeant Jae-hwan of Earth Forces. We're at your coordinates. Where are you? Their SOS reached the galaxy, and Earth's Deathworlders arrived. The shelter door opened slowly, revealing a dark tunnel leading underground. Sergeant Jae-hwan watched as the first Quillix emerged into the light. She was small, barely reaching his chest, with translucent wings and large compound eyes. She looked at him with something between fear and wonder. You are from Earth? She asked, her voice translated through his helmet's computer. Yes, Jae-hwan replied, keeping his voice gentle. I'm here to get you to safety. How many are down there? 347. Jae-hwan did quick math. His dropship could carry maybe 100 Quillix safely, given their size. They would need multiple trips. Start bringing them up. The elderly and injured first. Well, an explosion cut him off. In the distance, 3 Ravager soldiers appeared over a ridge, firing energy weapons. The beam struck near Jae-hwan's position, scorching the ground. Contact, one of his Marines shouted. Enemy soldiers 300 meters. Jae-hwan pulled the Quillix ambassador behind cover. Get your people back in the shelter. We'll handle this. His squad returned fire. The Ravagers advanced, confident in their strength. They were large creatures covered in thick scales, carrying heavy weapons. Each one stood at least 2.5 meters tall. The first Ravager charged forward, roaring a battle cry. Private Dongmin, the youngest Marine in the squad, fired a burst that struck the creature's chest armor. The Ravagers stumbled but did not fall, their armors thick. Dongmin called out. Aim for the joints, Jae-hwan ordered. The Marines adjusted their fire. The charging Ravager took a round through the knee joint and collapsed. Before he could recover, 2 more shots struck his helmet, cracking it. The other Ravagers stopped their advance, confused. Their comrade, a warrior who had crushed enemies on a dozen worlds, had been dropped by these small creatures. Jae-hwan used their hesitation. Suppressing fire. Drive them back! The Marines unleashed a coordinated volley. The Ravagers retreated behind cover, no longer confident in their superiority. In orbit, the space battle raged. Commander Taeyang's fighter squadron had disabled 6 Ravager ships. The human capital ships traded fire with the enemy fleet at close range. Seoul's pride shook from impacts. Shield strength at 60%, Minna reported. But the Ravagers are down to 40%. They're taking more damage than we are. Captain Dae-hyun watched the tactical display. The enemy was strong, but they fought in predictable patterns. Human tactics, developed through centuries of war against each other, proved more flexible. Target their command ship, Dae-hyun ordered. All batteries focused fire. The human fleet concentrated fire on Warlord Krath's flagship. The massive vessel's shields flared under the assault. On the Ravager flagship, Krath slammed his fist against his command console. How are these primitives winning? Their ships are smaller. Their weapons are weaker. His tactical officer studied the data, confusion clear on his face. Warlord, they move differently than any species we have encountered. Their acceleration tolerance is higher. Their reaction times are faster. And their tactics? They are unpredictable. I do not care, Krath roared. Crush them. But the Ravager fleet was already breaking apart. The human fighters were everywhere, too fast to track, hitting vulnerable points with precision. The capital ships worked in perfect coordination, covering each other's weaknesses. On the planet's surface, more human dropships landed. Engineer Sujin stepped out of the third transport, carrying her equipment. She was not a soldier. She was a technical specialist, assigned to establish communications and evacuation coordination. She found Sergeant J. Huan directing his Marines while Quilic civilians huddled behind them. Sergeant, I need to set up a relay station. Where's the safest location? J. Huan pointed to a collapsed building. That structure has thick walls. Should provide cover. But watch for Ravager patrols. Sujin nodded and ran to the building with 2 Marines escorting her. She began unpacking her equipment, working quickly. If she could boost the signal, they could coordinate evacuations across the entire region. As she worked, she noticed something strange. The Quilic's technology used different power systems, but the principles were similar. Maybe she could integrate them with human systems. Give me 10 minutes, she called to her escorts. I think I can link our shield generators with theirs. While Sujin worked, more Quilics emerged from hiding. They gathered in groups, watching the human soldiers with amazement. These aliens were so different. They moved with strength and confidence. They fought without fear. Ambassador Velthara stood among her people, watching Sergeant J. Huan coordinate the defense. She had seen many species in her diplomatic career, but never anything like this. Why? She asked, approaching J. Huan during a quiet moment. Why did you come? You owe us nothing. J. Huan reloaded his weapon, not looking at her. Someone needed help. We could help. That's enough. But you risk your lives for strangers, for aliens you have never met. Now J. Huan looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes she had not seen in any galactic species. Not pity, not superiority, understanding. On Earth we have a saying, we are all we have. Humans, Quilics, whoever, we're alive in a universe that's mostly empty. That makes us neighbors. And you help your neighbors? Velthara felt something shift inside her. These Deathworlders, these creatures from a planet of violence and danger, understood community better than most peaceful species, Sujin shouted from the building. Got it, shield network is online. A shimmering barrier appeared around the evacuation zone. Energy beams from distant Ravager positions struck the shield and dissipated harmlessly. The Quilics cheered. It was the first time they had felt safe in weeks. More dropships arrived, loading civilians. The evacuation proceeded quickly now, protected by the shield network and marine perimeters. In space, Warlord Krath watched his fleet fall apart. 8 ships destroyed, 15 damaged. The rest were retreating. This is impossible, he muttered. They are a new species. They should not be able to fight like this. His tactical officer pulled up data on his screen. Warlord, I have analyzed their biology from sensor scans. They come from a Class 12 death world. Krath went still. Class 12. There were only 3 known Class 12 worlds in the galaxy, and no spacefaring species had ever evolved on one. Until now. Retreat, he ordered quietly. Warlord, I said retreat. Full withdrawal. The Ravager fleet turned and fled, engaging their faster-than-light drives. Within minutes, they were gone. On Sol's Pride, the crew watched in stunned silence as the enemy vanished. They're running, Minna said, disbelief in her voice. We won. Captain Daehyun sat back in his chair, exhaling slowly. They had won. Humanity's first battle in space, and they had won. Get me casualty reports, he ordered. All ships, all ground forces. The reports came in. 3 Marines injured, none seriously. 2 fighters damaged but repairable. 1 capital ship with moderate hull damage. Against 23 enemy vessels, the humans had suffered minimal losses. Dr. Jiwan studied the battle data from her medical bay. She had been right. Humans were stronger, faster, more resilient than most galactic species. Evolution on Earth had created warriors, but what impressed her most was not the physical advantage. It was the tactics, the coordination, the willingness to risk everything for strangers. That was not evolution. That was choice. On the surface, the last evacuation ship lifted off. 5,000 Quilic civilians were safe aboard human vessels. Their world was destroyed, but they were alive. Sergeant J. Juan stood in the ruins of New Haven watching the sunset. The planet was beautiful despite the damage. He thought about Earth, about all the wars humanity had fought against itself, all the violence and destruction. Maybe he thought humanity's violent past had prepared them for something better. To be protectors instead of conquerors, Sergeant, his communicator crackled. Last transport is ready. Time to go. On my way, J. Juan replied. He took one last look at the ruined city, then turned and walked to the dropship. Above the planet, the human fleet gathered. They had come to help strangers, and they had succeeded. But as Captain Daehyun looked at the Qualix refugees crowded on his ships, he realized something important. This was just the beginning. News of what happened here would spread across the galaxy. The peaceful species would see hope. The aggressive ones would see threat. Earth had announced itself to the universe not with words but with action. And the universe was watching. Their SOS reached the galaxy, and Earth's Deathworlders arrived. The Galactic Council chamber looked different when Ambassador Velthara returned. The same representatives sat in the same seats, but now they watched her with new expressions. Some showed respect, others showed fear. Director Pym called the session to order. Ambassador Velthara, we have reviewed the reports from New Haven. The Council wishes to express relief that your people survived. Velthara stood at the center platform, no longer trembling. My people survived because Earth responded to our distress call, the same call this Council ignored. Uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. We did not ignore it, Pym said carefully. We explained that intervention was too dangerous. The Ravagers are a powerful force. They were a powerful force, Velthara corrected, until they met humans. Now the Ravagers have retreated to their home system and refuse to leave. They are terrified. Colonel Hyunwoo stood beside Velthara, representing Earth at the Council for the first time. He wore his military uniform, standing straight and calm. The other representatives studied him carefully. A reptilian delegate spoke up. This human presence troubles us. Earth is listed as a Class 12 death world. No spacefaring civilization has ever evolved on such a hostile planet. We do not know what to expect from them. Hyunwoo spoke clearly. Expect honesty. Expect honor. We came because someone asked for help. That is what we will always do. That is precisely what troubles us, another delegate said, a floating being of pure energy. You are warriors, Deathworlders. Your physical capabilities exceed most galactic species. Your tactics are aggressive. What happens when you decide to take instead of protect? Velthara stepped forward. I have watched these humans fight. I have spoken with their soldiers. They are strong, yes. But they chose to use that strength to save my people. This council had the power to help and refused. Earth had the power to help and came immediately. Judge them by their actions, not their world. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to accept Earth as a full council member. Others wanted to restrict human contact with other species. A few suggested preparing for war against Earth before humanity became too powerful. Finally, Director Pym called for a vote. We will grant Earth provisional membership. You may attend council sessions and speak, but you cannot vote on major decisions until you have proven your intentions over time. Hyunwoo nodded. We accept. We do not ask for special treatment. We ask only to be heard. As the session ended, several delegates approached Hyunwoo privately. They represented smaller, vulnerable species. They asked the same question in different ways. Would Earth protect them too if the time came? Hyunwoo made no promises, but he listened carefully. He understood that Earth's actions had created expectations throughout the galaxy. Back on Earth, news of the battle spread quickly. Dr. Ji-won appeared on every major network, explaining what humanity had learned. She showed comparative data between humans and other species. We are stronger because Earth is harsh, she explained to a reporter. Our gravity is higher. Our weather is violent. Our food chains are complex and dangerous. Humans evolved to survive where other species would die. This gives us advantages in strength, endurance, and healing. But it also gives us something else. What? The reporter asked. Perspective. When you grow up fighting to survive every day, you understand the value of cooperation. You understand that strength without compassion is just cruelty. Earth taught us to be survivors, but humanity taught itself to be more than that. Her words resonated. Around the world, people debated Earth's role in the galaxy. Should they become protectors? Should they remain isolated? Should they join the existing galactic order or create something new? The government held meetings constantly. Captain Dae-hyun, now promoted to admiral, attended many of them. He argued for measured engagement. "We cannot save everyone," he told the president. "We do not have enough ships or soldiers, but we can respond when we are called. We can make a difference where others will not." The president agreed. "We will establish a rapid response fleet, not an invasion force, a rescue force. We will answer distress calls when we can, but we will not seek war." Lieutenant Min-ah worked with the Quilix refugees, establishing communication protocols and cultural exchange programs. She discovered that most galactic species found human behavior confusing. "You fight so aggressively," one Quilix scholar told her, "but then you show such kindness. You are a contradiction." Min-ah smiled. "Maybe that is what makes us human. We contain contradictions. We can be violent and gentle, selfish and selfless, afraid and brave, usually all at the same time. How do you choose which side to show? We try to choose the better one. We do not always succeed, but we try." The cultural exchange revealed something important. Most spacefaring species had evolved on peaceful worlds. They had never faced the constant pressure of predators, disasters, and competition that shaped Earth. This made them advanced in technology and philosophy, but it also made them fragile in certain ways. They had forgotten how to fight, how to survive, how to sacrifice. Earth remembered. Word of the Battle of New Haven spread through underground channels. Species that the Galactic Council ignored began sending secret messages to Earth. Distress calls, requests for help, stories of persecution and oppression. Admiral Dae-hyun read them all. He could not respond to most. Earth's fleet was still small, but he marked them, prioritized them, and prepared for what he could. One message came from a mining colony being enslaved by pirates. Another from a research station surrounded by raiders. A third from refugees fleeing genocide. "We cannot save them all," Colonel Hyun-woo reminded him. "I know," Dae-hyun replied, "but we can save some. And sometimes, some is enough." Not everyone in the galaxy celebrated Earth's emergence. In a secret meeting on a dark station far from Council space, representatives from 5 aggressive species gathered. Warlord Krath sat among them, his pride wounded by his defeat at New Haven. "The humans are a threat," he growled. "They will upset the balance of power. They will inspire resistance in weak species. They must be eliminated before they grow stronger." A pirate lord agreed. "My sources tell me Earth's defenses are minimal. They sent most of their fleet to New Haven. If we strike now, we can destroy them." An arms dealer leaned forward. "I can provide weapons, ships, resources, but we must coordinate. A united assault." They began planning. A coalition of outcasts and conquerors, united by fear of a new power. They would strike at Earth directly, before humanity could establish itself as a permanent galactic presence. Meanwhile, engineer Su Jin worked in her lab on Earth, analyzing Quilix technology she had studied during the evacuation. She had an idea that excited her. If she could combine human power systems with Quilix shield technology, she could create something revolutionary. She worked for 3 weeks straight, barely sleeping. Finally, she succeeded. The new shield could handle energy levels that would destroy standard Quilix shields, powered by human reactors that no other species could build. She presented her work to Admiral Dae-hyun. "Sir, this could change everything. We can give this technology to vulnerable species. They can defend themselves." Dae-hyun studied her designs carefully. "This is impressive. But if we give away our technological advantages, we lose what makes us special." "With respect, sir, our technology is not what makes us special. Our willingness to share it is." Dae-hyun smiled. She was right. Dr. Ji-won continued her research on human biology compared to other species. What she discovered both excited and worried her. Humans could survive injuries that would kill most aliens. They could function in gravity that would crush weaker species. They could endure temperatures, pressures, and toxins that others could not. But this also meant humans could accidentally hurt others without meaning to. A friendly handshake could break a Quilix's bones. A casual shove could kill a lightweight species. Humans needed to learn control, awareness, and caution. She began developing training programs. Every human who would interact with aliens needed to understand their own strength and its dangers. Ambassador Velthara remained on Earth as the first permanent alien diplomat. She lived in a special habitat designed for her species' needs, but she spent most of her time outside it, learning about humanity. She attended a human school one day, watching children play. They were so rough with each other, pushing and wrestling. On her world, such behavior would cause serious injury. But these human children laughed and ran without fear. A teacher noticed her watching. "They seem violent, don't they?" "Yes," Velthara admitted. "But they are not hurting each other. They are learning," the teacher explained. "Learning their limits, learning control, learning how to be strong without being cruel. It is an important lesson." Velthara understood then. Earth did not just produce strong bodies. It produced strong character, forged through constant challenge. 3 months after the Battle of New Haven, intelligence reports reached Earth. Multiple sources confirmed that a coalition of hostile species was forming. Their target was obvious. Admiral Dae-hyun called an emergency meeting. "They are coming. We knew this would happen. We embarrassed them, and now they want revenge." "How many ships?" Hyun-woo asked. "At least 60. Possibly more." The room fell silent. Their SOS reached the galaxy and Earth's Deathworlders arrived. The enemy fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of locusts. 67 ships representing 5 hostile species, all united by one goal: destroy Earth before humanity could become a permanent threat to their power. On the bridge of Sol's Pride, Admiral Dae-hyun watched the tactical display with calm eyes. He had known this day would come. The moment Earth helped the Quilix, the moment humanity showed its strength, this confrontation became inevitable. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered. "Activate defense grid." Earth's fleet moved into formation. 40 ships against 67. The odds were bad, but Dae-hyun had prepared for this. Humanity had spent 3 months fortifying the Sol system. What the enemy saw was not what they would face. Warlord Krath led the coalition fleet from his rebuilt flagship. Beside him on the bridge stood representatives from the other coalition members: pirate lords, slavers, warlords. All species that profited from preying on the weak. "There," Krath pointed at the tactical display. "The human fleet is smaller than ours. We will crush them quickly and then bombard their planet until nothing remains." His tactical officer nodded. "Shall we demand their surrender first?" "No, no mercy. They humiliated me at New Haven. I will return that humiliation 1,000-fold." The coalition fleet began its advance toward Earth. On the planet's surface, billions of people watched the sky. They knew the battle was coming. Schools were closed. Emergency shelters were prepared. But there was no panic. Humanity had faced extinction before, many times throughout its history. This was just another challenge. Commander Tae-yang sat in his fighter cockpit waiting for the launch order. His squadron had grown to 30 fighters now, all piloted by volunteers who had trained specifically for this moment. "Ready?" he asked over the squadron channel. 30 voices responded affirmatively. They were ready to defend their home. Dr. Ji-won worked in the command center, monitoring biological data from the approaching fleet. She had analyzed the species profiles of each coalition member. All were from worlds harsher than most galactic species, but none matched Earth's extreme environment. "They are strong," she reported to Admiral Dae-hyun, "but not as strong as us. Their advantage is numbers and experience." "Then we will even the odds," Dae-hyun replied. He activated the communication system. "Attention, Coalition Fleet. This is Admiral Dae-hyun of Earth Defense Force. You are entering our system with hostile intent. Turn back now, or we will defend ourselves." Krath's response was immediate. "You cannot win, humans. Surrender and we will make your deaths quick." We have never surrendered, Daehyun said quietly. We are not starting now. He closed the channel and gave the order. Execute Defense Protocol Omega. What happened next surprised the Coalition fleet completely. The space around Earth suddenly filled with objects. Thousands of satellites, each carrying powerful weapons. But these were not normal weapons. Engineer Soo-jin had designed them over the past 3 months. Each satellite generated a gravitational field, creating zones of intense pressure. For humans who evolved in strong gravity, it was uncomfortable. For species from gentler worlds, it was devastating. The Coalition ships entered the field and immediately suffered. Their crews, unused to high gravity, struggled to function. Some collapsed. Others moved in slow motion. Their ship's systems designed for different pressures began failing. What is this? Krath roared, feeling his body crushed by invisible force. Compensate. We cannot, Warlord. Our systems are not designed for these conditions. Han Sol's pride. The crew felt the gravity increase but kept working. Uncomfortable, yes. Debilitating, no. Earth's children had trained in worse. Fighter squadrons, launch, Daehyun ordered. Commander Tae-yang's squadron screamed out of the carrier bays. They flew through the gravitational fields without hesitation, their bodies tolerating pressure that would kill most alien pilots. They struck at the Coalition ships while the enemy struggled to respond. The pirate lord commanding the second attack wave tried to pull back, but human capital ships had already flanked his position. Lieutenant Minna, now commanding her own vessel, led the assault. Target their engines, she ordered. Disable but do not destroy unless necessary. Her crew followed orders precisely. They had not wanted this fight, but they would finish it. On the Coalition flagship, Krath watched his fleet fall apart. The gravitational fields disrupted their formations. The human fighters were everywhere, moving too fast to track. The human capital ships struck with precision, disabling rather than destroying, showing confidence that infuriated him. All ships, full assault, he commanded. Break through at any cost. The Coalition fleet pushed forward, accepting casualties to escape the gravitational zones. They reached the human defensive line and engaged in close combat. The battle became chaos. Ships exchanged fire at point-blank range. Explosions lit up the darkness. Debris filled the space between Earth and its moon. But something strange happened. The human ships took damage but kept fighting. Their armor was thick, their structure solid. They had been built to withstand Earth's harsh environment, and that made them tougher than ships from gentler worlds. A pirate vessel struck Sol's Pride directly, tearing a hole in the hull. The crew in that section evacuated, sealing the breach. Minutes later, repair teams were already working, fixing damage that would take other species days to address. Dr. Jiwon monitored the battle from Earth's surface, tracking casualty reports. Human injuries were severe by galactic standards, but humans kept fighting through wounds that would have stopped other species. Adrenaline, pain tolerance, and sheer stubbornness kept them in the battle. We are winning, Colonel Hyun-woo said, reading the tactical data. But at what cost? The cost of survival, Daehyun replied. The only cost that matters. Then something unexpected happened. New ships appeared on the edge of the system. Dozens of them. For a moment, Daehyun feared more enemies had arrived, but Lieutenant Minna's voice came over the communication channel, filled with surprise. Sir, new contacts are hailing us. They say they are here to help. Who are they? The Quilix. And they brought friends. Ambassador Velthara appeared on the main screen from her command ship. Behind her stood representatives from 7 different species, all small, peaceful civilizations that the Galactic Council had ignored. Admiral Daehyun, she said, you answered our distress call when no one else would. Now we answer yours. The Allied fleet joined the battle. They were not warriors. Their ships were not designed for combat. But they had numbers, and they had courage inspired by humanity's example. The Coalition fleet found itself suddenly surrounded. Human ships in front, Allied ships behind, the gravitational field still disrupting their systems. Their morale already shaken broke completely. Retreat, one pirate lord shouted over the communication channels. This battle is lost. Coalition ships began fleeing. Some activated their faster-than-light drives and disappeared. Others surrendered, their crews unwilling to die for a lost cause. Only Warlord Krath refused to retreat. His pride would not allow it. He ordered his flagship toward Sol's Pride, intending to ram it in a final act of defiance. Sergeant Jae Hwan, now leading a Marine boarding team, had anticipated this. Admiral, permission to board the enemy flagship? Daehyun understood immediately. Permission granted. And this. Jae-hwan's team launched from a dropship, crossing the space between vessels in armored suits. They breached the flagship's hull and fought their way to the bridge. The Ravager crew tried to stop them, but human marines in close quarters were unstoppable. Jae-hwan faced Warlord Krath directly. The massive warrior charged, confident in his strength. But Krath had never fought a Deathworlder before. Jae-hwan moved faster, hit harder, and showed no fear. Within seconds, Krath was on the ground, defeated. "It is over," Jae-hwan said simply. "Surrender your ship." Krath looked up at this human, this creature from a planet of nightmares, and finally understood. He had not lost to better weapons or tactics. He had lost to better warriors. "I surrender," he said quietly. The battle ended. The coalition fleet was destroyed or scattered. Earth had won. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. They could no longer ignore or restrict Earth. Humanity had proven itself in combat and, more importantly, in character. Director Pym addressed the Council. The humans could have destroyed the coalition fleet completely. They had the power. Instead, they disabled ships, accepted surrenders, and showed mercy. They fought only to defend, not to conquer. Ambassador Velthara stood beside Colonel Hyunwoo. "I propose that Earth be granted full council membership immediately. They have earned it." The vote was unanimous. Earth joined the Galactic Council as a full member. But more important than the political recognition was what happened next. The Council established the Deathworld Protection Accord, a new law requiring powerful species to assist those who could not defend themselves. Earth would lead the enforcement, but all Council members would contribute. 5 years later, New Haven had been rebuilt. The colony flourished, now protected by both Quillick's defenses and human technology. A monument stood in the central square, showing a human marine and a Quillick civilian standing together. Lieutenant Minna, now a captain, commanded the joint task force stationed there.